Lopes fans, welcome in. My name is Brendan Williams, and this is Go Lopes Radio. I get it. We are in a lull in the sports calendar right now. Most of us waiting for NFL, college football, and yes, college basketball, but we got a gift today from the college basketball gods as GCU men's basketball releases their full schedule. That's right, guys. We got the Mountain West, the new look Mountain West schedule, GCU's non-con as well. Everything. We can start scheduling flights. We can start looking at potential matchups. All of it, guys. An exciting year is ahead. So I cannot wait to dive into this. So here's how this show is going to work today. We're going to go through specifically that non-con schedule a little bit, see what we got going on there. Obviously, some surprises, some things that were released over the last few weeks. So we're going to talk about that. I've got some macro takeaways as well for conference schedule and the non-conference schedule. Again, just 30,000 feet here. Some things that maybe changed, some things we're looking forward to, some things I thought the conference got right, etc. That will be a lot of fun. And then, guys, I think we're just gonna rip it here at the end with some Discord Q&A questions. I'm gonna pull that up once we get going on that part of the show. And who knows what's been put in the Discord so far today. Lots of chatter about the schedule, but excited to get in there. We will answer some questions here. Cannot wait for it. Okay, guys, final thing before we get going here. I got two things. First, please, if you can like and subscribe wherever you're listening, if that's YouTube, hit that button to subscribe to us. Obviously, if you're Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, please subscribe. It means a lot to us over here. Small shop. We are, like we said, slowly ramping up, guys. College basketball, it is a lot closer than it may appear. GCU just gets back from their exhibition trip. We are going to be ramping things up over here at Go Lopes Radio. We have a massive year upcoming, so please like and subscribe wherever you can. Second thing, I was saying in the Discord, I've been teasing this for a little bit. We're going to just call it Project Lope for right now, guys. We have a big project we've been working on over here at Go Lopes Radio. Myself, intern Blake, who is back better than ever. He is excited. He's going to be involved with that project as well. Been working on it this summer. Really kind of in our final stages of it, and something we're going to have available to all GCU fans here soon. So please, again, wherever you can, follow, like, subscribe. You will have all the details on that. Man, I'm really excited for you guys to have access to that. If you are a GCU men's basketball fan, this is a must get and a must, I'll give you a little teaser here, a must read. So really looking forward to that, guys. Okay, let's get into the schedule. We are Wednesday, August 12th here. I think this was a week later than when we got the schedule last year from the Mountain West. I believe we got that first portion with opponents. This year it looks a lot different, right? With the Mountain West, we can kind of cover this right now. With only 10 teams in the conference, GCU is going to play the 9 other teams twice. That's 18 games. So you will play each team home and away. If you remember last year, that was not the case with GCU. There were 2 teams. One you would only play on the road, and then one you will only play at home. They only played Colorado State at home, and they did not host Nevada. So that will change this year. GCU will play every team in the Mountain West at home and away once. I think that's just the right way to do it. I think it's the perfect amount of teams. I love that you get a shot at each team at home, and then you got to go to each team's place. I think that kind of makes it unique and fun. Obviously, that Nevada game last year for GCU was weird because we had 1 game sample size. It was just in Nevada. Would have been nice to have that 2-game sample size. I hate bringing that game up right now. Just get mad thinking about it. But just to give you an idea, I think we're going to see a little bit more of context as we head into Mountain West Vegas. So looking forward to that. Guys, let's get into the non-con part of the schedule, though. GCU in the past, and I'm just going to go hand up here, right? We'll just call it out. I did a podcast even, I think, a few months ago where I talked about I was not optimistic on GCU's non-con scheduling. It's been pretty clear right in front of us, right, over the last few years, this regime is not into scheduling tough in the non-con. That has been pretty consistent. Last 4 years, 315th ranked non-con schedule, 277, 247, and 173. So we've seen it kind of progressively get worse over the last 4 years. You've seen a few games that have some intrigue, and I get it, guys. I've been harsh. I know it's hard. This might be a question we're going to actually get to, so I'm not going to discuss it in full right now. But it's going to require a lot of creativity, right, to schedule some of those big-time games, those big-time opponents in the non-con. Here's the thing. I don't know if I had to have to release like a formal apology. I don't think we're there because I think now that we have the full context of the non-con, I don't think a full apology is required. But here's what I will say. Clearly, this staff has shifted, had a little shift in the way they think. Whatever that might be, if it's new staff members, if it's just them collectively getting together and kind of changing things. Maybe it's that the Mountain West Conference not as good this year. Whatever it is, they made a clear shift to schedule a lot tougher this year. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. I don't think a full apology is required again because we're going to go through this, talk about some of the teams. I don't think I have a ton of egg on my face, but I will kind of meet halfway there and say I'm really happy to see some of the games on the schedule. So, guys, let's get into it. I'm going to go through game by game the non-con. I'm not going to have a ton of notes on every team. We'll talk about it just a little bit. I'm going to include, this is a really important thing here when I talk about each team, their T rank, which is Bart Torvik preseason rankings. I'll be honest, guys, and I've looked through these kind of a lot of the summer because they've been available for a while. I'm iffy on them. There's some that I'm not crazy about. I'm more of a preseason Ken Palm guy. I think he gets a lot of it right. I'd rather roll with Ken Palm. Maybe some Evan Maya, but T rank's available to us. We're going to take a peek at it here. So I will include that number as we talk about each team and what we got going on here. So just keep that in mind. About 300, I don't even know, 365, 368 college basketball teams, whatever that is. So keep that in mind as we talk about some of those numbers. And again, just give us some grace because I don't know if this is where everybody's going to end up or at the time of the game, what that team might look like. But let's get it going. We don't have any info on the exhibitions. Now, here's what I'll say, guys. If you hop in the Discord, I think there's going to be some breadcrumbs about some of the things they got going on in the exhibition, some really big things. Hop in the Discord because good stuff's going to be coming in there. I promise you. So let's start out here. Regular season, we are getting this thing going November 2nd at GCU Arena, ladies and gentlemen. Texas Southern coming to town. Now, we know we mentioned this when we talked about the schedule as well. 82 days away, by the way. We're going to open up on Monday, November 2nd here. Is that these games are a necessary part of every team's schedule, especially if you're going to be a top, 125-ish sort of basketball team. Again, I don't know. I'm not going to confirm these are bye games, so that's like the wrong language to use. I don't know for sure. So I don't, that's merely speculation. But these sort of bye games or bye adjacent games where these bad teams are going to come to town, they're more than likely probably receiving a payment from GCU. GCU gets to play an easy team, and more than likely GCU gets a win, right? So every team's going to have them. And GCU, I get it, in the past has had maybe a lot more than others, but they are going to have them, and that's just the reality of how this works. Like, you're not going to have 32 games of playing top 100 teams. That just does not happen, and it's not a reality. So we start out Texas Southern on November 2nd. They are 342 right now in T rank. So not a lot of good things going on there for Texas Southern, potentially for this year, but they will open up then. Guys, next game, Bethune-Cookman, November 7th. That will be a Saturday. And so they are coming to GCU. They're 190 in T rank. So a little frisky. Not a lot to other mention there. I think these Saturday games are great. Students are on campus to start this season here. I think that's really important and a really good, important key component of some of these non-con games. November 11th, next up, guys, we have Cal Poly. Now, this is a Wednesday. Cal Poly, I'm going to do this right now. You are officially on UC Davis, Youngstown State watch. Frisky Cal Poly. You are being monitored. 213 in T rank. I have this game circled as my potential UC Davis Youngstown State game. If you're familiar, GCU's hosted a team in this sort of area ranking wise, and they've come into GCU Arena and beat GCU. I think that stuff, now I said this last year, I'm going to say it again though, and I think I'm going to hopefully be correct this year. I don't think we're going to have to worry about any of that stuff this year, about some of these bad teams coming in here, catching GCU on an off night. I don't think that's happening. But Cal Poly, you are getting the respect right now on August 12th as the UC Davis Youngstown State honorary member for the 2026-2027 season. Again, 213th in T rank. Next up, Louisiana Monroe. This one was announced previously, 324th in the nation. Not a lot going on there. They are playing a wild non-con schedule, guys. If you haven't looked at that, they are going through a gauntlet, and Louisiana Monroe will take a stop in Phoenix on the 14th at GCU Arena to take on the Lopes. And then this is when things get fun. So GCU starts out first 4 at home. They did this in the past, I believe last year. They were all at home until they went to Acrisure. So they will do that again. They will start out against St. Louis. Guys, gosh, man, I love these games. This is what it's all about here, guys. When I'm talking about like why I care about the non-con scheduling, a game against St. Louis, that is awesome. I get it. It's a neutral court. They had the home and home the last 2 years. They split them. And I get Robbie Avila's gone. Well, maybe. Who the heck knows at this point? St. Louis is going to be really good. And it's going to be a lot of the same last year. Like if you remember watching that game last year, St. Louis had things revved up. I mean, they absolutely ran circles around GCU. I was in the arena that game. That was one of the away games I went to in person. It was shocking. I mean, they just ran circle. The speed, the physicality, all of it. GCU got absolutely swallowed up. Keep in mind the year before, Luke War had an awesome kind of put back, push shot and beat St. Louis at home. That was great. To get a third shot with these guys, I think these are just two programs that should play every year. It just makes a ton of sense. I absolutely love that they are going to be taking on GCU. Guys, T-Rank has St. Louis 67. I am at the point where I'm like, they might be like the 25th to 35th best team in the country if I had to do some rankings right now based on my preliminary research. I think St. Louis is way better than that. So I'm going to give GCU some respect. Getting in the pod with St. Louis, that is big time. Guaranteeing that game against St. Louis, I think is awesome. Second part of this will be either Colorado or Stanford. Colorado, 89 in T-Rank. Stanford, 101. Stanford lost their really electric guard this last year. He was kind of teetering if he's coming back or not. He went to the NBA. If you remember, Stanford was GCU's first Power 4 victory in Palm Springs. That was 2 years ago. And yeah, I just think, listen, are they like these great sort of Power 4 programs, Colorado and Stanford? No, they're going to be on the lower end, 89-101. GCU's probably going to be favored in this sort of game. I think I think those two programs are in a really, I just think, weird place right now. But the bottom line is when you get these teams, guys, is they have a ton of talent. They have P6 size. They have P6 talent. If you remember when GCU played Stanford, they actually had Maxime Reynaud, I believe is how you say the name. The big guy, we were just talking about him constantly. We loved what he brought to the table. And yeah, that Stanford team wasn't that good. But at the end of the day, they did get to play a really good player in Maxime Reynaud. And I think this will be interesting to see how they do. Again, last year, they beat Utah, lose to Iowa. They still get to play some of those kind of bigger schools. You got a little Bennett Sturts action in Palm Springs. Week of Thanksgiving. This is awesome. I think a really good job by the Lopes here. Next up, Incarnate Word on Sunday the 29th. We'll talk about it a little bit. The Fighting Cam Wards. 343 in T-Rank. So not a great team. They will be coming to GCU Arena. That's going to be a weird week, I think, for the Lopes. This little 2-week stretch. You go to Palm Springs, you've got Thanksgiving, the holiday, and then you're back. You're playing on a Sunday. And then they got to get ready for one of the most fun stretches, I think, that GCU basketball has ever had right after this. So they'll be taking on Incarnate Word on the 29th. GCU Arena. Back at GCU Arena, by the way. Then GCU gets on the road. December 2nd, ladies and gentlemen. This was announced a little bit ago. GCU playing at Oklahoma State. I have Oklahoma State also as like a top 40 team. I do not agree with T-Rank at all here. They have them 57. I love this Oklahoma State team. We're going to get into that a little bit more when we talk about when we get into Project Lope, that big project we're working on here. We will talk about how much me and Blake both love that Oklahoma State team this year. 12-2 going on the road to Stillwater. Big time game there. Really excited for that. Then they come back home on that Saturday. You got Santa Clara at home, the first of a half and half. Santa Clara 92 in T-Rank. Maybe not the Santa Clara of old, maybe a half a step backwards, but they always find a way to get talent and be a really good team. And I just love that GCU is willing to get that home and home with Santa Clara. That's exciting stuff. We love this stretch here. This is when things are really getting good here. Now you throw in a little Northwestern State. December 8th. Not a lot going on there, guys. They are going to be very, very bad. 293rd. I believe they came to GCU Arena last year. Pretty uninspiring, is what it is. But again, those games are a necessary evil. That'll be on Tuesday. And then on Friday, so this will be another quick turnaround here. They will be going to Memphis at the FedEx Forum, playing at Memphis's arena, a true roadie. T-Rank has Memphis 110. I don't know about that. I think Memphis will be a little bit better. This is a kitchen sink year for Penny Hardaway over there. I would bet on them being a lot better than that, potentially making the NCAA tournament, being right in that area. Another great opportunity, guys. This is big time. I love that GCU is willing to take this on. Go there this year. Next year, that game's coming back to GCU Arena. We're going to hope it's when students are on campus. That is going to be a ton of fun. GCU just going on the road and seeing if they can sneak one away. And then they go, guys, this is where it gets just awesome. This is the stuff we talk about here. This is why we follow sports. GCU will have the opportunity, more than likely, to take on a top 3 team, maybe the number 1 team in the country, not at Florida. Neutral site. They might call this semi-neutral. I need to see the laws on what the semi-neutral is, because there's a certain amount of miles. I don't know if that counts here. In Jacksonville, they'll be taking on Florida. That is going to be, waking up in the morning, and that's the first thing you're thinking about if you're a GCU fan. Cancel work, cancel everything, get together with everybody, find the meeting spot, and put on GCU Florida, because that is going to be box office sort of stuff. And this is where I got to give credit to the staff for taking on a game like this. This is the sort of stuff. And listen, whatever happens on the basketball end of it, so be it. My case a lot of this time for playing better games is that it's better for the fans. And GCU needs to be so much more fan-centric and giving into those core fans. This is what it's all about. Are we going to remember Northwestern State on December 8th? Are we going to be talking about that game with our friends in 2 years? No. Are we going to be talking about that one time GCU played Florida? Maybe they played them frisky. Maybe against all odds, GCU comes out with a win. Whatever it might be, we are going to talk about that, and that's what college sports is all about. I love GCU taking that game on. Massive kudos to the staff. And then again, a weird little finish here. UMBC, famous UMBC, by the way. They're about 257 in T rank, whatever. Not a crazy game there. 12-22. That might be your employee Christmas party game, the all important game of the year. Plan accordingly, ladies and gentlemen. UMBC 12-22, a little before Christmas there. And then, guys, this one was funny. I did like a quadruple take. I could not believe this was real. No offense to, our friends over at Justice University. This is not a hit on them. Good for everything they got going on over there. This is not a belittling sort of conversation. But I follow a lot of college sports, guys. I promise you. And to not know Justice University or somebody on GCU's schedule, this was humbling, because, guys, I hate that. I hate not knowing that stuff. I put a lot of time into this, follow a lot of recruits. I follow a lot of college football. I follow it all, guys. This sucked not knowing Justice University. I had to do some research. They are a Division II NAIA school, I believe. And so that will be an interesting one. 12-29 GCU Arena. That's how they will be ending their non-conference play. So, guys, that's the non-con schedule. We're not going to go through the conference schedule game by game, but we just went through that non-con schedule. Overall, guys, I'm really amped. I think there's a lot of big games in there, 5 to 6 that are stop everything you're doing and tune into this and getting really amped. You've got some of those bye games in there. It is what it is. But there are going to be opportunities to go to GCU Arena and watch this group, support your team, and I still think it's going to be really, really awesome and exciting. Man, that stretch from Acrisure through Florida, that a little less than a month. Oh, man, that's going to be good stuff. That is going to be a ton of fun. Okay, let's get into some of those macro takeaways. I said we were going to do that, so let's do that right now. Non-con, guys. It's always going to be really tough, I think, to avoid student breaks. It's just tough, right? That it's the reality of college basketball that's a little bit different than college football, where students are essentially on campus for the whole college football season. And I get it. There's a few games that are on break. But to me, the most important thing that GCU did is that Santa Clara game is scheduled with students on campus. That will be an all-out no excuses sort of game. Guys, we might have something really special in store for that day. We're working on that. We'll be in communications with GCU Athletics about something potentially really exciting there, Go Lopes radio wise. So stand by on that. But I think they did a great job trying to navigate that. Again, it sucks. Like, that's the reality of college basketball, is some of these games are going to happen without students on campus. It affects the vibe. But I think overall they did a good job. In the big game, they were able to get with students on campus. So next up, guys, GCU doing a game on a Sunday. I know that's going to catch some people off guard. I get it. I think this is always a weird conversation. Here's the thing that I'll say: college athletics is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And listen, I get it. BYU, they almost demand when they play in the NCAA tournament that they don't get the Friday Sunday setup. But the reality of college sports is, like, this thing's getting more finicky and it doesn't take breaks. There is no off season now. Like, we've talked about that. The off season doesn't exist. It's recruitment all year long. It's, you're playing the games, you're scouting. It just keeps going. It is nonstop now, 24/7, year-round sport, no off season. And this is kind of what happens too when you want to schedule tough teams. Now, this is pure speculation. This is how I looked at it, right? GCU, when they go into some of these scheduling conversations, and this is maybe a weird thing for GCU, and this is just my speculation. You go into a conversation with Oklahoma State. Here's how this works, guys. You don't get to tell Oklahoma State, if you're GCU, how this little series is going to work with them. That's not how it works. We know GCU not great with, having things outside of their control. We could all probably admit that as GCU fans. They were the belle of the ball in the WAC. Now they will be the belle of the ball in the Mountain West, one of the teams that really cares. And that's credit to GCU for trying and wanting excellence across all their sports. But when you want to play really good teams, you are not going to have the leverage. And so we talked about this with some of the scheduling, and maybe this was a hindrance, is that GCU doesn't like when they don't get to dictate terms on stuff. So if you want to play that game, Oklahoma State probably said, this is the day we're playing that game. Okay, well, when do we fit another game in? And they've got the Acrisure. They can't move the Acrisure. And you can't do a game Saturday because that's too quick of a turnaround, but you can't do a game Monday because then you can't get to Oklahoma State. This is what happens, guys. And the college athletics is changing. You sometimes got to just do stuff maybe that's a little uncomfortable or different. And having a game on a Sunday is going to be a different thing for GCU. It is what it is. Sunday, 6 p.m. Incarnate Word. They get that game in, and that's how this stuff works, guys. So things are always changing in college sports. GCU, the reason they've been able to be successful is they've always been willing to kind of change with the times. Just over the last 10 years, college sports has completely changed. They've done a great job. And so that's maybe why you see that. Let's maybe not try to have a panic attack with GCU having a game on Sunday. Kind of is what it is. I understand the hesitation, but this is kind of how college sports works. Like, I tweeted this out earlier this week when the Mountain West Pac-12 settlement stuff came out. College sports is not a running through the flower fields business. I think GCU fans have not been exposed to a lot of that because they don't have football and because GCU's kind of been tucked away in these other conferences. College athletics is ugly. There's a whole ugly underbelly of bad stuff that goes on. That's the reality of it. And sometimes you kind of just got to make stuff work. And GCU, that's what happens. They had to play a game on a Sunday. And so I don't think it's going to be something you're going to see like maybe every year or constantly, but that's what happens. Next up, guys, enough time on that. That was probably too much time on that. I mentioned it. I just love these games that GCU's got going on. Memphis, Oklahoma State, obviously Florida, St. Louis. Like, those are games, the group texts are popping off all day long. You're talking matchups. You're talking, what if, I don't know, what if a guy on Florida, what if their big gets 2 fouls by the under 16 in the first half? Like, that's what college sports is all about. And so GCU taking those chances to play those games, I think is really exciting, is really awesome, and has me really amped. So I want to just one more time, again, give credit to the staff for making that happen. And next thing, we're transitioning into a little bit of conference stuff here, guys. The reality of the new Mountain West. Gosh, man, I'm reading through the schedule, and just don't come after me too hard on this, guys, but you read through the schedule. man, those Pac-5 teams leaving stinks. It is a completely different schedule. You know, you used to see last year with the schedule, right? There's not a lot of off days. It was just Air Force, pretty much were the off days. Every other team was some level of frisky, exciting, brought something to the table, tough, teams, good coaches, this and that. And you're going through the Mountain West schedule. And man, there's just a lot of lulls in it, right? We know our New Mexicos, our Nevadas, our UNLVs are going to be exciting. I get it. But man, just hopefully some of those teams come ready to go this year. We're going to have a full preview of that in Project Lope, as we keep referring to it as. So we'll see. Maybe some teams can kind of outkick their coverage there. But my first gut reaction was, dang, man, getting rid of those teams. This is a completely different conference. And really, I think just a massive bummer. We talked about just the business and the ugly side of college sports, man. It makes no sense. Like, all those teams should be playing together. It's just how things should be, but that's unfortunately not how it is. So I wanted to call that out. Other thing, if I was in charge of a conference, guys, I would totally just make the schedule exactly how I think it should be set up. Like, I remember when GCU was in the WAC, and I hate doing this and kind of making fun of the WAC here, but one of the things that used to make me so mad was when GCU would play New Mexico State on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it's like, guys, this is your banner game. Like, figure it out. Put the good games on Saturdays. Put them on, give them TV opportunities. Ensure students are there. Like, bring juice to these things. And instead, they just kind of, schedule it in a real kind of crappy manner. And I think they could have done a better job this year. The Mountain West could have. But I love that they nailed every GCU New Mexico game. Every GCU Nevada game is on a Saturday. Now, games can be flexed. This is a really important thing here. If you're buying tickets, if you're wanting to go to games, we need to wait a few weeks because Mountain West will have that TV schedule come out here, and games can be flexed up to one day for those TV windows. So keep an eye on that. But I love that the conference went in there. And maybe it was accidental, but GCU New Mexico, GCU Nevada, they're either going to be all on Saturdays or Friday night, kind of prime time national TV. They got that absolutely right. I would have loved to see them kind of build the schedule out a little better with just when those games are. But I love that those games are on Saturdays. It allows for that drama and that excitement to build. And again, let's see my dream come to life where GCU Athletics does tailgates for college basketball. No reason there shouldn't be an opportunity to tailgate that Lobos game. Get together with your friends, buy a little sliver of property outside the baseball stadium. You get to hang out for the day, bring your TV, watch college basketball all day, enjoy some food and beverage, and then go into GCU Arena. Let's make that happen, man, for one of these awesome Saturdays. On to the next. Final point here. Guys, this finishing conference play for GCU is, listen, I thought last year they had it really good going in, and I thought it could have benefited them heading into Vegas. It lined up, I think, they played their final game at home against not good teams. And I think just like, hey, if you're looking to get healthy, get right, get some momentum going, that was a great way to do it. Now, that didn't work out last year, unfortunately. This year, you look at their final, let's just call it their final like 5 or 6 here. 2-13 against Nevada Saturday. So that's their real final, like tough game. That will be at home. They go to Air Force, to UNLV. UNLV, always frisky, always wild. We know that. And then this is their final 3. Home San Jose State. They might be better, but again, they're not Nevada or New Mexico. At Hawaii, tough travel. Hawaii might be okay. They were an NCAA tournament team last year. And then they host UC Davis, who we don't think will be very good this year. All that being said is GCU should be able, if they need to either make up some spots in the standings, if they need to get out ahead of things, if they need to, I don't know, maybe get some guys back, work them back into the rotation, coming off injuries, whatever it might be. I think they're going to be set up really good in those final 4 games against what shouldn't be any of the other top teams in the conference. And they should be able to kind of go 4-0, take a ton of momentum into Vegas, and I think maybe right some of those wrongs from last year and have a great time in the Mountain West Conference tournament. That bracket is out, by the way, so make sure to look that up if you haven't already. But guys, that is our schedule reaction. No other thoughts, I think, at this time. As I've said, when we get to Project Lope, there'll be a lot more detail on the schedule. everything related to that, some of the teams, some of the matchups, and whatever it might be. So we will get into that at a later time. Okay, guys, here we go. Let's hop into the Discord. We've got a few questions here. Which games do you think will be nationally televised at Cast 123 besides the ones that are announced? We know Acrisure will be on CBS Sports Network. Oklahoma State, I don't think we have any announcement on that. I would expect that to be picked up. These non-con games, they're interesting because I don't know if like a team that GCU or conference member has a relationship with from the TV side, if they have to pick them up or if they get first option, how any of that works, I'm a little ignorant. I don't think that you could have that Oklahoma State game and not have it on some sort of national TV. As we know, that should be, at a really good time slot as well. It's during the week. It'll be an hour or two ahead of GCU at that time. So it should be right in that kind of 6 p.m. GCU time, maybe 5 p.m. Should be prime time. I expect that to be on some sort of linear. That's great. That Santa Clara game, a must-have. That reeks of like a CBS Sports Network. They got to get out there all day, soaking the vibes at GCU, kind of paint a picture of that game. That should be a ton of fun. I expect that to be on national TV. Obviously, the game at Memphis, kind of these big ones here, and then the Florida one. I think it already said is being picked up, ESPN2 maybe. I could be wrong on that, so we'll need to look into that. Those are the games I expect to be on national TV. And then only other note for conference play, I'd expect GCU guys. I mentioned that games can get flexed for national TV. I think GCU's in tier one when it comes to the Mountain West. And we know this stuff is a reality of how it works, right? Like Air Force basketball is probably not going to get as many national TV games as GCU basketball. Nothing against Air Force. We just know that that's how this stuff works. I think GCU's in that top tier. They should be getting a lot of those good time slots. I think they will. That is, again, that's because GCU tries and because they give a crap and they want to put a good product out there, not just on the court, everything surrounding it. So I think they'll get rewarded by having a ton of national TV games. If you remember, guys, only a few years ago in the WAC, they were begging. We got one game on ESPNU at 9 p.m. Phoenix time. It's like that was it. Everything else was ESPN Plus, the whole schedule. So when you think of this, guys, where we've kind of come from a few years ago, this is awesome and really exciting stuff. Next question. Actually, let's keep with schedule stuff and we'll end with one. Is the whole Louisville situation from a decade ago still a legitimate reason no one will come play us at home? This is a tough one. I think there's multiple levels to this. I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be hard. GCU, St. Louis, New Mexico, these sorts of teams that are not, power players, that are in between, but that are good and try and want to care and are going to be tough places to play. It is going to be really hard for them to get road game or home games against good teams, right? That's the reality. I think the other thing that goes into it, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, purely speculation on my end of how this stuff works. GCU men's basketball, the program, the staff, everything, GCU athletics, they have got to be willing to take a less than ideal situation. So you look at this Oklahoma State, they play them on a neutral court. It's semi-neutral for GCU or semi-home, whatever they call it. GCU plays at the Colangelo, and then they go there. Now, Oklahoma State's not going to do a one-for-one with GCU, where Oklahoma State's going to go to GCU Arena. They're just not going to do that. Oklahoma State has the leverage over GCU. And I don't care where they finish in Ken Palm, tournament, whatever. Oklahoma State has the leverage in that situation, and you have to kind of play their game. And if you want to get them to come to your place, it's probably going to be a 2-for-1. It's probably going to be some other sort of situation. It's, you've got to be willing to get creative to do this stuff down the road. With Memphis, they were able to get that 1-1. We absolutely love that. They will come to GCU Arena next year. Obviously, Santa Clara coming this year, GCU going there. So you've got to be willing to play tough games on the road. You can't say, why isn't anybody coming to play us if you don't want to go play a really good team in their house too, like not neutral, go play in their house on the East Coast, in the Midwest, right? You can't just go to play neutral games, in your time zone. You got to go play in their house. And I think that's also a big reason you've got to be willing to kind of take some of those risks. Looks like that's something that's going to be happening moving forward, and I think is really exciting for the program. Final thing, and that was from Canyon Time. Sorry, that question. We appreciate that. Undisputed champ, how finalized do you think our roster is, knowing we still have that extra roster spot? How deep in the rotation do you expect for us to see throughout the season? This one's a tough one, guys. There's obviously one clear, I think undisputed champ, there's one clear kind of question I think that's kind of being asked here without it being asked. And it's an awkward one to talk about with this 5-5 and the injunction and all this. I think the question probably undisputed champ wanted to ask is GCU going to want to bring Jaden Henley back? And this is a really tough one for me to answer. I don't know, guys. They've got one roster spot. They've got this injunction. Some other guys might be eligible. We're kind of waiting to hear if guys who didn't go in the portal can still enter into the portal. As of now, it kind of seems like if Jaden Henley wants to come back, he has to come to GCU or he has to go to the NBA or go play professional. I don't know the truth to that or how that will develop. Here's the thing that I will say. I'm going to try to word this the right way. Jaden Henley is an unbelievable basketball player. And so Jaden Henley or player X in the portal that they would bring in. GCU can bring in top tier talent. That's just the reality. They have the resources. They've had a ton of success, and their program a place where people want to play. I think GCU, when I came into this offseason, my number one priority looking at the last 2 years that I've covered the program, 2 years in a row of Coach Bryce Drew very justifiably going into different press conferences and talking about different things like buy-in, or some guys went to the bench that were starters and big-time returners, and talking about the hot and cold play, the camaraderie, and the togetherness of the group, right? You remember the program shirts, all this sort of stuff that's happened over the last 2 years. And I think my priority was getting a group going into this offseason that is bought in. They got some returners, Makai, F.A., Caleb, I think really important, some other guys who returned as well. And then I thought the goal was when they go out and get guys, like getting things that work to gel. We thought at different points last year, right, they had this, and there still were some of those moments. These are not my quotes or my thoughts, right? These were honest, thoughts from Coach Bryce Drew in press conferences. Now, basketball is a tough game, so nothing's going to go perfect. We understand that. So my priority going into this season, I think off season for the program, was wanting them to get a group that is all in, out of the gate, ready to rock. Off the court, on the court, and you can't take that time and have the Youngstown State game where people are still feeling each other out. You got to be ready to go from day one, right? And so to me, when I look at this, and they constructed this roster, right, in a certain way where this guy's here, this is what we're kind of expecting. What happens if they bring a guy in? I don't know. That's none of my business. That's for the guys to get along with. My big thing is that regardless of who they bring in for that 15th roster spot, they feel like they keep that intact. And you trust the staff and know that they will hopefully do that. I don't know what route they go. I think the priority with that 15th spot is, do you fit into what we're doing? Do you fit into our culture? Someone put a tweet out, someone who worked for Basket Under Review. They talked about how risky some of these late ads can be. College basketball is a finicky game. Basketball in general is a finicky game. And it's not like guys are coming in that are locker room cancers, right? That's not what we're saying. But it's finicky to get this stuff to work all in the right way, in the right direction. And there's risk with bringing something into that this late in the off season. So that would be my thoughts on it. My priority at the spot is them finding some guy who is bought in. Everyone who's still there is excited to have them on the team and part of, this program and the culture and everything that GCU basketball is. That's the highest priority. I think for me, over like bringing in another guy that can, potentially score 20 points a game. So I think GCU has a ton of talent they brought in already. This staff went crazy in the portal. We're going to get into some of that as we start preparing for the season, what we like. I think there's a lot to like. I'm really excited about this roster. Cannot wait to tell you guys more about that and why I think that. And so I think they've got a lot in-house already. We'll see what they do. Excited to see what they do with that 15th spot. Final thing on this is credit to the staff for having that 15th spot available. They have the power. They can choose what they want to do with it. And That's really smart with that potential ruling to leave that spot open. That's how forward thinking. We talked about the nimbleness of this program, the staff, GCU Athletics. That's a credit to everyone involved, Coach Bryce Drew and his staff all the way down, keeping that roster spot available so that they can kind of see this situation that's very fluid day by day, kind of minute by minute, right? And make the right decision. So excited to see what comes of that. A great question from Undisputed Champ in the Discord, guys. Like I said, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, follow, whatever that may be, wherever you're listening. We really appreciate it here. That's all for now. More coming your guys' way. And again, I cannot wait to share more about this really exciting project we're working on over here at Go Lopes Radio. That's all for now, guys. Cheers.